Okay, so this is kind of number two in the spirituality of the second half of life. And so the question I want to talk about is, when does it begin, and what brings it about? How do I know when I'm starting to make that transition? And my first job at McDonnell Douglas in St. Louis, I had a boss, and I remember the day. He was probably in his 50s, late 40s, maybe early 50s. I wasn't sure because I was too young. I didn't really think about those kinds of things. But I do remember the day that he drove into the parking lot in our little building, and he was driving a red Firebird T-top. And I thought, oh yeah, he's hit his midlife crisis, and he went out and bought a Firebird. And that's kind of the stereotypical way we even think and talk about this transition from a first half of life to a second half of our life. And I want you to take that idea, and I want you to put it in a mason jar, a virtual mason jar, and put a lid on it, because this is way deeper, way more profound and mystical than simply this sense of wanting to relive my youth. That is one of the reactions that happens as we hit this wall. We want to go back and relive our youth, when really what we need to do is move over the wall and move into something different. But let's talk about, when does this begin, and what brings it about? And I think, as I've talked with different people and watched my own life and thought about this, what I would say is there's some crisis or crises that lead to pain, and these could be relational crisis, that a marriage ends, and there's a sense of trauma with that ending. Someone dies very close to you. It could be a parent, it could be a spouse, it could be a child. It could be the awareness that I thought I was going to be married by this time, and I'm not, and I may not be married, and I'm not sure what to do with that. Sometimes it's a work crisis. So I've had friends who get pretty far in a work environment, and then they hit a plateau or a ceiling for any number of reasons, and they lose their job, or they get downsized, or and then they go through a period of unemployment. But really, it's now a season of questioning one's identity and one's sense of vocare, of like, what am I called? What is my calling? How should I live this out? For women in particular, I think that when children start getting 15, 16, 17 and start leaving the house, usually that coincides in their mid 40s to mid 50s. And there's this, especially for women that have stayed home for many of those years, there's this little bit of crisis of, who am I now that I'm not defined by the needs of my children and being a mother, 24/7. And those events happen, and they create pain. And the reason why there's pain, some of it's just because of trauma. Some of it is because there's a loss of identity. There's just a sense of, I'm now disoriented, and I'm not sure what to do. And it creates crisis and pain. And then how we react to that pain, and how do we react to this awareness, is either moving us back into our youth, or moving us forward into the age of being a true elder. And most churches are not, I don't think we're talking about this at all. That's why I'm trying to do this, because I understand this really well. I've lived in this, I've pastored in this, I've missionaried in this. And I've gotten to this place, and the answers I was giving here and the answers I'm hearing from churches are not the answers for the pain that I have or the pain that I see others having. I'll end it with a quick story. I was teaching a class at a church that I was working for, Bush, it's over 10 years now ago. And I didn't really realize what I was doing, but I was actually reteaching the good news of Jesus, primarily aimed at this group of people without knowing that's what I was doing. But a woman came into the class one day, and I asked her, so how did you hear about this class? Because we were kind of like a subversive clandestine group. And why are you here? And she said, the Christianity I had developed has failed me. And I said, oh, perfect. You're welcome here. You're exactly the people that we're all here trying to figure this out. But I think she had been through divorce and her marriage had come apart, and her framework for understanding, how do I relate with God? How does that work? Had left her empty. And I think that's where a lot of people hit. So in a book called The Critical Journey, they talk about that there's a wall, that people hit a wall. And what a lot of people do is they try to go back and kind of redo the basics that we've been doing during our formative years in this season here in the first half. And it doesn't work, and it embitters us. And what we need to do is actually get over this wall, and there's another kind of life on the other side of this wall. And we'll talk a little bit about that in our future episodes. And that's it. Episode 2 in the books.